had a discussion with someone in relation to the buttons at the bottom of the screen, these buttons down the bottom here, in particular this one here. I said the button's called the recently used apps button, and the other person said to me, no, it's the running applications. So I've made this video to show the distinction between the two. So to give you some sort of an idea, I shall go to here, all right, and I've done a question to Google, which is, what are the three icons at the bottom of the screen? These ones here, all right. So in this particular, I'll just get me out of the way so we can see what the results are. It says from Google, the three icons at the bottom of the Android's phone home screen are the home, back, and app overview buttons. So it uses neither of the terms. These buttons are part of the navigation bar, which is a menu which allows users to navigate their device. So then I decided what I'll do is I'll find out what the app overview button does. So I said, what does the app overview button do? And it says the overview button on an Android screen allows users to switch between recently opened apps. It's also known as the recently apps button. When the overview button is pressed, a list of recently opened apps appears on the screen. Users can then quickly switch to a different app without having to navigate back to the home screen. So that's what it's all about. However, having said that, that's just what it says, and that's just another thing I want to bring up in this video. All right, what do you actually? There's actually two ways of finding out information. Well, two ways of working out things, and one way is just straight knowledge, and that's what I've just done. That's knowledge, right? You just knowledge, or some people might call it intelligence. All right. However, there's another way. There's more a scientific way. Right. So some people may also argue that, okay, recently used apps and running apps are exactly the same thing. So I want to just show a scientific way of proving that they're not the same thing. So here we go. So what I'll do is minimize myself there. I'll go back to my home screen. All right. I'll call up an application, for example, maps. Right. Okay. So maps come up. All right. Okay. And then that I assume that maps wasn't running, so was it? So it's now running. Okay, so we'll go back to the home screen again, and we'll call up another app, Play Store. All right, so we start Play Store up. Okay, now rather than going back to the home screen, what I can do is press the little button down the bottom there, and it shows me. In this case, I'm only showing them one at a time, but also can chop them and change them so it shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apps running at the one time, 6 apps, recently used apps. And so anyway, I can slide back and jump from backward one to another. For example, I can go right back to here. Okay. If I keep on going, I don't know how I go. There's one there called NewPod. I have used that recently. Okay. However, to prove, so I can then swap between the two. So if I go to that one, I go to Maps. And by the way, if you press the button twice, it can quickly jump between that and the last use that, right, rather than pressing one. Okay, so to prove that the recently it isn't apps running, that it's recently used apps, what I'm going to do is stop one of these two apps, or stop this Maps app, for example. How can I stop it? Well, one way of stopping it, if I go to the home screen, and this is on my phone, it won't necessarily work on all phones. Sometimes you've got to go to settings, I'll show that a bit later on, and actually go into applications and say shut down the application. So if I do a long press on it, it goes to app information for maps, right? And then it comes up with this. And one of the things there is force stop. So if I do force stop, if you force stop an app, it may misbehave. I'll click on OK. So force stop is grayed out, which means I can't stop it because it's not running. Okay, so now if I press the home key, okay, and press that, there we are. Maps is still showing in recently used apps because it is a recently used app. It's not a um, is a recently used app. It's not an app that's currently running. If I press on it, some people say, "Oh, it comes up straight away." For example, I'll press on it. Oh, there's a bit of a delay there. Now it's loading maps. Okay, it looks like it's exactly the same thing, but it's not. Okay. One other thing. As I said, that's why of proving it. Another, if you haven't got that, I'll do that same function again just to repeat it well on a different way of doing it. All right. So I go back to the home screen. I'll go to what was the other one? Play Store. Where was Play Store? I'll do a long press on Play Store. App information. Okay. All right. Comes up for stop. Stop it. Okay. Okay. Then press the recently used app button and it's still there. All right. Even if I swap to that one, all right, and then do that, and Maps is still there. Okay. Play Store is still there. Hold on. Yeah, Play Store is still there, even though I've stopped the Play Store application. I mentioned before, I'll just go back to that again. I mentioned before that when I do a long press on one of the apps that I've got running, it actually gives me the ability to, for example, I go to Gmail there, app information, and then I can shut down the app. Some phones don't have that capability. All right, just come back to that. Yeah, some phones don't have that capability. If that's the case, if you go into settings, there's settings here, settings in different places on different phones, and then you go into something about, from memory, it's settings, notifications and applications or some sort of thing like that. Let's have a look. About phone. We'll go right up the top. Network, lock screen, dynamic, apps, recent apps, default apps. Example, you go in there, right, and gives you the recently used ones. For example, I go into maps. I then go into that same screen. So sometimes you've got to go into that way to shut down an app. And by the way, the other thing too is if you find that an app is misbehaving, right, or something's not working properly on your phone, rather than shutting down the whole phone and starting again, what you can do is simply go into the app and shut down that particular app in the two ways I've shown there. Either from the home screen, a long press on it, and then go to app information and then shut down, or go into settings, go into apps, all right, call it up, and then shut down the app there. Quite often I find if that's the case, it actually, if I shut down the app and restart it again, it starts working good as gold. So it's not necessarily shut down the phone all the time just because you think an app's not working properly. Okay, that's it for that. Any questions, email me.